Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of Gore column in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives after they put out big news. With us today, happy to have him again, and the news just keeps getting better and better. Steve McCauley, CEO at Empower Clinics, trades in Canada, EPW, for friends in the US, EPWCF. For those new to the story, Empower is an integrated healthcare company. This is the official description that serves patients through medical centers, a medical device company, and a high complexity medical diagnostics lab. More than just lip service. Financial highlights: 2021 revenues were $4.37 million, up 355% over 2020. And of course, we're waiting for the 2022 numbers to come out when the year end is done there on March 31st. But all that has been done with notable partnerships and a brand family like we talked about: Labs, Medisure Canada, the Meta Collective, all those two together. But that looks like it may also significantly change thanks to the press release that we're talking about today. Empower Clinics advances partnership to launch U.S. clinical trial management services with formation of a Delaware-based company and identification of principal investigators. Steve, welcome back, my friend.
Hey, George, thank you. It's great to be on the show as always. And, we love bringing these highlights to everybody. Sometimes we may be quiet for a little bit of time, but, we're always working very hard behind the scenes on behalf of all of our shareholders and our team and our staff and all the new followers that may be just sort of, on the sidelines, sort of paying attention a little bit. But, we want to make sure that we're communicating effectively and as often as we can.
Well, in this case, it was just 30 days ago, give or take, that you had originally announced this LOI with Dr. Macherla. And now here's a quote from you. Today's news is a significant step forward in less than 30 days from first announcing our LOI with Dr. Macherla, and serves as a clear indication of our mutually shared intention to rapidly proceed forward with the business of operating an SMO, a site management organization. This is fast, right? Is this a great sign that you guys are a meeting of the minds, you're on the right track, you're on the same track together, and you both want to really move this ahead quickly?
Yeah, I think the meeting of the minds is a great way to describe it, right? This is a relationship that's been nurtured over a period of time. And, particularly through, the latter stages of the fourth quarter of last year, we were really actively working hard on this formula with Dr. Macherla. And as we got into 2023, in the first quarter, we got that LOI put together. And, Dr. Macherla is very meticulous, very bright, very busy, and, but still so engaged in what the potential could be. This is a massive market. It's the top of the food chain in healthcare, frankly, if I have to kind of describe it in the right way. And,
that's a great description.
And, hopefully we'll talk about comps a little bit, because as we've been doing this, we've also been really working hard on the analysis and understanding the market, the capital market aspect of these segments and subsegments of healthcare. And it's just literally at the top of the food chain. There's so much investment from big pharma, from industry in the United States. And Dr. Macherla gets it, we get it. And we really feel that this is a great move and position for us. It's kind of like just we're continuing to get closer and closer to being a biotech, full life sciences company. And we think it's a great place for us to be and to live. And we really believe that this is going to bring great value back to our shareholders.
Well, okay. Well, that answers the question I had, and I was going to ask you a little further down, but I think I'd like to go with it there, which was, why is the segment of healthcare so interesting and has really caught your attention? The question I have is, you kind of touched on it. What are the comps? Because a lot of us aren't familiar with this space, because it is at the top of the food chain. You don't see this in the small cap world for any reason.
No.
I haven't seen it before.
Yeah.
What are the comps? And for everyone home, comparables. What do the comps look like? What can we potentially expect to see in the future if all goes well?
Well, so this is, just it is us doing research. It is getting great data, assembling the data, and stepping back and saying, well, what is it showing us? And what's interesting, if you look at the public company comps, primarily looking at NASDAQ and NYSE, so New York Stock Exchange, and looking at some of the European comps. And there's some very big comps in Europe to really weigh against also. We then took healthcare, and we took biotech, and we took big pharma. And we're not talking about us being a pharmaceutical company. We're talking about the whole services industry that serves big pharma. And there are segments and subsets of that are incredibly large. So if there's a segment called CROs, contract research organizations, and the publicly listed companies in this sector that are NASDAQ listed and NYSE listed, can range anywhere from $4 to $5 billion in market cap at the bottom end to 50, 60, $70 million, $1 billion of market cap in today's environment. And so when you take these segments and comps and then break it down to another segment called site management organizations, where there are companies that are consolidating how clinical trials are being run on the ground. They're managing the sites, the principal investigators and their patients and their research patients, and starting to do it on a bit of a consolidated basis. There are publicly listed companies in that sector that also have multi-billion-dollar market caps. So we took all these
sectors where you guys want to play. That's where you're targeting first.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, that is definitely where we need to be and start at this stage. I mean, we've got a lot of background that enables us to be a player in this segment, and obviously having a joint venture with an experienced researcher like Dr. Murcherla accelerates all of that. And that's what we're talking about today. But on the comparables, we really started to subset, and we took, okay, this kind of top sector of healthcare, what are the multiples? Multiples on revenue, looking at TTMs, looking at forward-looking 2023, 2024, multiples on revenue, looking at multiples on EBITDA. And we then took other subsets like groups that are focused on, say, medical clinics only, that are focused on medical devices, that are focused on different sectors or segments of healthcare. What we learned through analysis is that the multiples that are being offered today for this segment of healthcare that's involved in clinical research and clinical trials are getting valuations that are dramatically higher than any other subsets in healthcare listed companies. So when you go look at that data, and we are working on the concept of getting research coverage over time. I don't think that we'll get it today, but maybe we're not that far away from getting some reasonable coverage on that. But there are some very good papers that are being put out by some of the top banks and names that we would all know, that if you follow their healthcare coverage and you start to break into their subsets on their comps, and then you start to go to pharmaceuticals, acronyms like CROs, SMOs, particularly in US healthcare, you will find that this is the area where in time you get way better multiples on revenue, way better multiples on EBITDA, because the margins that are provided for these services are extremely strong. So in a bit of a tighter environment of today in our capital markets, where there's cash flow generation from your business units, you're going to be rewarded for that. And we believe that's very important for us as we continue to adjust our skill set and where we feel we should align and deploy our resources.
Especially when your cash flows are coming from some of the biggest companies on the planet, period, which are big pharma and big bio.
Period. When we look
at waiting for George Com to send you a check, and there's some risk, and I mean that's why those comps are getting such great multiples, high profit margins, and a very dependable pay stream.
Well, the industry, particularly in US and the big parts of Europe, are so well funded, and these are the biggest of household names that, we have all, we've known about, we've learned more about, going through the pandemic and COVID time period. And they have a voracious appetite for data. And it's a very competitive marketplace. And there's a massive windfall opportunity for big pharma to be successful with a clinical trial that can get an FDA approval or a CE mark approval in Europe and bring a new drug to market that can change people's lives. So we have a lot of the skill set already embedded in our history to support that and to be part of that. And I feel like as we've gone through discovery and deeper due diligence over the last 18 months on these topics, and we've come closer now to execution, that we feel it's the right decision and the right choice, and especially in the environments that we see ourselves in today.
Now, having said that, there's always devil's advocate to play, which is nothing great comes from anything easy. And I'm not trying to, and you're not saying, and I'm not implying that you're saying it's going to be easy, but let's talk about the challenges that come with growing an SMO business. And by the way, I want to quote you, our proposed, it's not as if we know you're not implying going to be a multiple billion-dollar company just yet, but you do say our proposed Dallas-based SMO is expected to generate 7-digit revenues from clinical trial management services in 2023. I mean, this year. So you're definitely going to be off and running. So we can all see that side. But what are the challenges that come with it, Steve? Because
Sure.
if it was easy, we'd all be doing it. So what have you identified as some of the challenges in your due diligence?
Yeah, and so, as an organization, I mean, we already generate, 7-digit revenue. And when we look at this segment, and we've had the opportunity to go through due diligence on the industry, we've had the opportunity to go through due diligence, with Dr. Mocherla, and we obviously have NDAs and confidentiality in place, but I can tell you that in analyzing financial statements, in analyzing bank statements, in analyzing contracts, the official contracts with big pharma, connected to the CROs, who may have the contract to manage the entire clinical trial over a period of years with the big pharma company, and a site management organization like Las Vegas Medical Research, as an example, of Dr. Mocherla, you see how it all connects. And it's almost like going through an audit. A due diligence is kind of like an audit. What you're trying to do is connect, all the information, all the dots, all the way down. And we've been fortunate to be able to do that in this circumstance of due diligence. And, I can see it all the way through. So when we do see that, and we think of bringing our historical capabilities to bear on this segment, using as an example, our facility in Dallas, our understanding of patient management, our hundreds of thousands of patients that have gone through our company's hands over the past number of years, and the many, many, many doctors and practitioners and nurses that we have been able to garner, I think, very significant experience with patients and the understanding of what it means to manage a patient who is suffering from chronic disease, who is interested in participating in a clinical trial and in research, requires some of the greatest of patient management, because you're going to be with that patient for potentially every single week for a number of years, as they're also managing through their chronic disease, whatever that might be. So it requires empathy. It requires knowledge. It requires expertise. It requires patience for the patient. And I believe that we have earned the right to be part of this big, important aspect of healthcare. I would suspect that some of our followers might say, well, I don't get the connection. But ironically for me, the connection or the degree of separation is actually very small. It really is, it's just such an important part of healthcare. And now I think that we have footing and a path from a business standpoint and from a public company standpoint to leverage what we've invested in historically and keep moving it, moving the ball down the field or whatever it may be, whatever analogy you want to, tie yourself to. But I truly believe that we've got so many attributes in our history that make sense for this JV. And we've got a great JV partner that helps tie it all together for us. And we're so excited about, announcing now the formation of the JV. So we actually did the formation. The company has been formed, the Delaware work has been done, and we're deep into the definitive agreements and look forward to getting those announced in the near future.
Yeah, will that process move as fast as this first part of the process move, where you created the JV co for the joint venture? Do you expect, or is this part going to take a little more time because this is where you're really getting married and you want to go over all the I's?
I feel generally, it's on a good pace. I mean, we've gone through, Empower as a company's gone through a number of, deals and acquisitions, and, we know the rhythm. I've gone through a number of those, over my time and years. And so I feel like this is definitely on pace on any of our transactions that we have done. It's certainly not off pace. So you have to form it. We felt that, this was the right thing to do quickly with Dr. Morcherla. He was very comfortable with this next phase. And this leads into what our, it's a share. When we say definitive agreements, it's shareholder agreements. It's how you manage the company, what are the policies, procedures, and as you put these two entities together, where two parties, have their interest in the operating co, we call it the joint venture co. And you might see it in press releases that are coming out as JV CO, JV co. And that's really our company that together we've formed that will be the platform starting in Dallas for our SMO, our site management organization.
Now, starting in Dallas is something that we talked about in the last interview, which makes sense. And you kind of paint a picture of, and over time we want to expand to other jurisdictions. So I said, okay, that makes sense. And you'll do that one day, but Dallas, we're going to start. And then lo and behold, in the press release, it says engagement of 50 plus, 50 or more, 50, more than 50 principal investigator candidates. That seems like that was unexpected, as I always thought, and maybe that's just me, but I always thought that was down the road for expansion once you've got Dallas and Las Vegas really humming between each other. Is that just my bad assumption, or did this part move really fast? And if so, what does engagement mean? Engagement of 50, more than 50 principal investigator candidates.
So George, all of that aspect completely surprised me.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Yeah. So our guys, Dr. Rabinowitz and Dr. Zimmerman and Dr. Morcherla, they worked with, our team members in Dallas, and they put together a game plan. And the main thing that I said to them was, as we're talking and we're learning more about all of this, and you're talking about recruitment effectively. And I said, well, if we're talking about recruitment, I said, to me, I think of it like a sales funnel. So, you need to get a lot of candidates in your funnel, and they have to be qualified candidates, and then you have to work on it. You're going to have to do interviews and filter, and you'll get to your short list of really good candidates. And in this case, the candidates are highly reputable medical doctors and specialists, and who have research and clinical trial experience on their resume. And so the team really, it was interesting what they did is they took sort of a sales funnel approach. They went out to our Dallas Fort Worth medical community, and they divided up categories of specialists. So think of neurology to diabetes to internist to endocrinology, whatever, rheumatology, whatever and of course oncology, which is the largest aspect of clinical trials, and said, okay, well, let's go work on this. And they, in a span of a very short period of time, I'm talking about like 5 business days of incredible work.
Wow.
And putting together, like really focusing, they assembled a list of 58 highly qualified candidates. And we know that, we're not going to have 58 PIs out of all of this, but we have a candidate list that they're working on right now. And this actually was in advance of the formation of the JV. They just all got on it. They got together. They were just motivated to say, we know that this is a critical part of the development of the business plan. So we're going to get on this together. Dr. Morcherla providing guidance on what are the categories of specialists that we should be identifying. And everybody leveraged their community and outreach. And we are placed right in the heart of the Dallas medical community. And our team members and our scientists and specialists, all have network. And I'm very proud of them. They did a great job in, assembling very quickly a bit of a star-studded list of potential candidates. So I think they've got themselves a bit of a working formula that they can hone and repeat and identify, top PI candidates that we will be able to, launch SMOs with. And that's where that comes from. It's a reflection of actual quality work that has been completed.
If I didn't know any better, Steve, I thought this was possible because we said 5 days. I'm a business guy, and it's possible to almost set up any kind of funnel of value in 5 days. The fact that 5 days they're able to get to this, I'm saying this kind of tongue in cheek, but I'm almost wondering, did artificial intelligence play a role in this, where you got artificial intelligence scanning, lists of doctors and potential candidates and assessing just through artificial intelligence? Steve, yeah, good candidate. George, no, not a good candidate. And I know it wasn't, or I don't know it wasn't, but it most likely it wasn't. But man, it almost seems like it, because your guys move fast.
Well, they were. I mean, I think the concept of good candidate versus not a candidate. I'm not sure where that is right now, but I certainly did provide a little bit of guidance on methods to fast track lists and really be intelligent about how you identify potential candidates. But so it's a combination of doing using some tools to search, but also using network. And our team did provide I'll call it like a formula, whereby there were key data attributes that you had to ask for or identify. And when it was submitted back, every single candidate information that came back was in the same format. So that it was almost like filling a form.
Yep.
So that, and then what we did was I'd ask them to put that into a spreadsheet, a tracking spreadsheet that we could analyze and then track attributes over time. because I want to know the progress of the funnel and the PI candidates, because you might find a PI candidate that is superior and timing works out and stars align is perfect. But you also might find PI candidates that maybe don't have a ton of research and clinical trial experience, but boy, they would be amazing to be a P2, a secondary candidate that could shadow and follow a P1. So after they get more experience, they can become a P1 themselves. Like, they can
be in your network.
Obviously, yeah, within our network. So you're grooming them for our expansion, in SMOs.
It's like a sports farm. It's exactly like a sports farm team system.
Well, yes. And, there's a lot of value to, having that approach to it all. And there's a huge human element to it all. And, so never underestimate how important it is to, strike relationships, build relationships, and nurture them over time. So this is where, if you're a secondary PI candidate, you absolutely in time, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, who knows, could be number one primary investigator on a big trial, making an absolute difference to the lives of humanity going forward. So, we think of it that way. And so the farm system is a sports analogy, but, I really am asking, our lead team members to think of it that way. And, combine this analysis and sort of funnel approach, never forget the human element in what we're doing. And so I feel like if we get all of that, formula right, we could have ourselves some really important, initial SMO sites, and build credibility with big pharma and the big CROs, where they go, yeah, if you open another site in another city, we'll absolutely support you with a contract.
And that's the answer to the devil's advocate. Somebody, I can see some investor at home thinking, well, how do they attract 58 potential candidates, engaging 58 potential candidates already? They must not be any good. But the answer is, you guys are actually going as part of your plan into the non-traditional markets, smaller, still big, but smaller cities, smaller states, where most clinical trials have not been taking place. So it's almost wide open territory for you.
Well, I mean, Dallas Fort Worth is, one of the largest markets, in North America. So, that's a big market to commence in. We just happen to have a very good presence there. So there's a lot of attributes and logic to be there. But when you start to go down the freeway, and say you go down to Austin, you go down to San Antonio, you go down to Houston. Houston's a very big city. There's a lot of incredible markets in between all of that. Dr. Mucerla and team, like other markets as well, that maybe they are slightly smaller markets, Midwest markets, northern markets, where potentially there may be less competition. Again, you still require, very competent PIs, principal investigators. But we think that there's a real interesting formula building where we can attract and recruit and leverage existing practicing medical doctors and their patient base in markets where they see the value of participating with us. The compensation is very positive and strong for that work for the PI, but it's also altruistically potentially so important for their patients and their patient base that they may have been serving for decades potentially.
Steve, if this deal gets done, and I say if because it still has to get done,
Yeah.
doesn't sound like you have a lot of concern, but until it's done, it's not done. On a scale of 1 to 10, how drastically does this change the path of Empower, the future of Empower?
Well, I think you have to say it's a 10 because it's, it's incredibly important. It's something that we've been nurturing, for a longer period of time than I think our followers would know. And that's out of respect to our JV partner. It's about confidentiality agreements and NDAs. It's about, we were dealing with challenging times in, the middle of last year, and, it put a stall on a few things. So, we're finding ourselves coming out of all of that. And, these programs and these relationships, that we have been nurturing for a very long period of time, are materializing. And that's what we're talking about today. This is why, the press release that's been put out is that, this is advancing, it's not stagnant. And we're working very hard and very diligently, very respectfully, with our new, JV partner. And we think together we're on to something that's very important. It's meaningful. And we also understand that has the potential to bring, tremendous shareholder value. And that's also equally important to us. So, we're optimistic, we're pragmatic, we're working hard. We're also trying to work as efficiently and as intelligently as we possibly can through all of this. And we're doing it in the most, cost-contained and controlled way that we can possibly do, recognizing, the type of environment that we're in.
Last question. I know you can't give us a specific date, but ballpark, if the moving towards definitive agreements goes as expected, there's always little hiccups here and there, but ballpark, is this something that maybe, or I'll just ask you straight up, when should shareholders expect this potentially could get wrapped up, closed, and then, away you go?
Yeah, for us, we've always believed it was second quarter. And, it's moving at kind of the pace that we thought. We were very pleased with the legal work that we did this past week to 10 days to get the formation done. And we're working through the formation agreements, the definitive agreements that make we refer to them as the JV agreements, just in general terms. And they comprise a bunch of agreements and documents. So, we think that it still feels like second quarter, which is, sometime after April 1st and
before June 30th.
Yeah. And so that's, for us, seems like a reasonable time frame with what is going on. And, we'll just keep everybody apprised and posted of progress. And, the active work on the business aspects, has already been happening. So,
that's a great sign.
Yeah, right. That part is really, cannot be underplayed. And we felt like it was important to talk about it in this most recent announcement, because we felt it was a, I was very proud of our team. I felt it was an incredible milestone that, they just got to work. And they were focused. They had a laser plan on what they felt they needed to do, and they knew what they were, seeking out and trying to accomplish. And, let them go. They were tremendous, and they came back and they went, here we go. Yeah, we've got all of this. And I was frankly blown away by the scale and the quality of the candidates that they are in conversation with. And it bodes well. If they keep this type of precision going, then I think it bodes well for, us as this, developing biotech company, serving the top end of the food chain of healthcare.
Well, Steve, I think I speak on behalf of everybody saying we're cautiously, quietly optimistic about what you're working on, because it sounds awesome. And I know, speaking for myself, probably other people, I'm hoping it'll finish closer to the beginning of Q2 than the end of Q2, but all good things do not take time. Yeah. But this is great news today. It showed how serious the partners are moving ahead this quickly, identifying more than 58 principal investigators. I think that's fantastic. So, it's great. This is a great small milestone on the way to the big one, and can't wait to have you back. Hopefully more good news soon, man.
Okay, we agree. And thank you, George. Thank you for your time, and thank you for the coverage. And hey, to all of our supporters, stick with us. We're here working hard for you every single day. And I cannot express to you how much I've appreciated your support over, in some cases with some people, 4 years. If you're new to, the story that we're working on, just thank you for being with us.
Yeah. And thank you, Steve, for your efforts, my friend. Can't wait to have you back. And till then, for everybody at home, you've been watching or listening to my podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple, your favorite podcast platform. To Steve McCauley, he's CEO at Empower Clinics, trades in Canada, EPW, in the US, EPWCF. For those new to the story, because you're seeing the changing nature of the company, these great headlines of where it may be going, and you want to do your due diligence, get to the company's profile page on Agoracom to get a great overview of the company. And then once you've got that foundational knowledge, head right over to the company's website, do your deep dive due diligence. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. See you next time.
Hey guys, this video is over, but don't forget to help your company by liking it and even leaving a comment below. And then don't forget to help yourself by subscribing to our channel and never missing another great Agoracom small cap video.